As yesterday we were talking, that there are different approaches to teach. There is a Western approach and like an Eastern approach we could divide often. While the Western approach, it's somehow more direct and it's more based on understanding, no? We like to understand things. While the Eastern approach, normally it's more indirect, it's not so much direct to the point, it's more like going around, and somehow it's more based on the experience so that after we get to our own conclusion. Normally it's somehow like this. We can see this in different types of teachings and so on. And in Buddhism this is quite clear. So there are some aspects of the teachings that normally are not explained with so much clarity actually. The clarity is there in the teachings, but we need to study many other things, learn many things, have a lot of experience, and then we suddenly put everything together like the pieces of the puzzle together, and then, we catch it, the meaning. No? Like what we were explaining before this morning about the inner offering, where we stopped with the sadhana, explaining the fact of going beyond our own preconcepts, and also the fact of doing the process of the inner fire that melts the bodhicitta and generating the union of great bliss and emptiness, and so on and so on. These are all things that are present in the teachings and are quite clear, but are not explained in a very explicit way. Are things that to understand it takes time, and normally we go around and then we put these pieces. It's like putting the pieces of a puzzle together, no? But what we try to do here is somehow to have like a way in between, to explain some things so we can have our own understanding a bit better, and also to have the experience. If we need to explain everything, that is even not possible. But at the same time, there are many things that we can get some sort of understanding of what is behind the symbology. That's why I think this is a little bit important. I tried to share before, okay? And then also, like, this just remembered me that once time I was in India with a friend, and then he came to me and he said, I understood this and that about something related to Dharma teachings, the practice. And I said, very nice, I'm happy for you, that's good. And then he thought, but look, I'm telling this to you because you are who you are, my friend, but I'm not going to tell this to other people normally. And I would say, why? And they said, because it took so much time and effort for me to get this meaning, to understand it. Why should I share with people so easily? They should have at least do the same effort, no? And I was a bit shocked like this. For me, it was the first time that I was in front of, at least explicitly in this way, this sort of spiritual miserliness. And for me, it was a bit shocking. Because I think that in the moment that we can share in a simple way what actually for us was difficult to understand, I think it gives a lot of joy. I think that's very special. But on the other side, to be sincere, also, I'm here trying to explain in the most simple and clear way as possible, but the only thing that I am sure about is what I think that I am saying. What you understand, truly, I have no idea. No, this is another subject yet. So this is not because you are you and me. This is any communication that we have, any time. We try to say something, we can put it in the most clear way as possible, but what really comes in the other side, we really don't know. But this connects me even to another thing, like this Eastern way that things go around and are not so clear of the teachings. Rinpoche tells the story that one time he was living in Gantok, in the north of India. And at that time, Rinpoche, he was doing a retreat, so he was not going out. And then His Holiness the Dalai Lama came to give some teachings nearby somewhere. So he couldn't go because he was doing retreat, but there was some monks living with him that were there, and he sent them for the teachings, no? And they were 2 days listening to the teachings, whole day there, teachings from the morning to the evening and so on. And then when they came back, Rinpoche asked them, it was, I think, Kalachakra. I don't know exactly what was the teaching and initiation that it was giving. And then Rinpoche said, was a very intelligent boy normally. He was a very intelligent boy, he could understand things clearly and so on, intelligent one. But when he came back, Rinpoche asked, so what did the Dalai Lama say in the teachings? No? And then he said, Chaktapu, which is open the umbrellas. Because it was maybe too hot or raining, whatever, and then it's not respectful while you're receiving the teachings to open the umbrella. So Dalai Lama said to people, open your umbrellas, no, even though you are receiving the teachings, because it was too many people in an open space. So this boy finally, after one whole day there, that's what he remembered. No? So this is also somehow connected to the fact that the way how teachings are often given, it's not so clearly and it's not so easy. And also some time ago I was explaining exactly the same part of the inner offering, a little bit in more details. And then I went for lunch at home, and then Rinpoche was there, and the abbot of Sharganden, Rinpoche, was also there. And Rinpoche asked, what did you explain today? And I gave the explanation of what I was explaining, and he asked me to explain how, and I explained. More detailed than what we saw today, but more or less the same. And then Rinpoche said, so nice, so lucky you all are here in the Western. We just received the same teachings in India. Just read the visualization and explain the true meaning behind. No one is telling, no? It's left for each one to reach their own conclusion, which in a way it's better. But this requires for us to have a long path that we are there and so on. So what we try to do here is just to have like the middle way. Somehow it's like to share a little bit of, I just try to share a little bit of my own understanding, my own experience. Hopefully it's right. And then also leaving the space for each one also to learn better and then get one's own understanding and experience. Okay? And then luckily we have commentaries and ways where things also can be explained in a clear way. So now we continue with the explanation of the sadhana. Just trying to, what I want to do is just to try to go to the meaning, because as I said before, the visualization you can read and you can understand. There is no any big mystery about it. But to go a little bit behind what is the meaning and why we do in a way or another, I think that's a little bit more important. So I'd like just to, now as we go to the rest of the sadhana, it's very short, but I just want to go to touch some important points which I think are not explicitly explained in the sadhana. Okay? The next part of the sadhana is one of the most important parts, which is the central part of the sadhana. That is the self-generation as the Buddha. In this case, as Buddha Yamantaka. No? And the part of the self-generation, if we take the long sadhana, in between this, there are some other parts before, which is, there is first of that, the offerings to the directional protectors, in order to protect us during the practice from our inner and outer interferences. Then there is the practice of Vajrasattva, in order to purify our own negativities. Then there is the practice of taking the Bodhisattva and the Tantric vows. And then there is together with that also the practice of accumulation of merits. Then once we have done that, we do this as a basis to support our own, the three transformations, which is the main part of the practice, okay? So we do the part of purifying the negativities, accumulating merits, and so on, as a way to support the three transformations that we do at this point of the practice. So, at this point, we do the mantra Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddhoham. In the long sadhana, there is also the mantra Om Shunyata Jnana Vajra Swabhava Atma Koham. The meaning of this mantra is that Om Swabhava, Om refers to body, speech, and mind. Swabhava means nature. Shuddha means pure. Shuddha is just like when we're doing the self-practice of self-healing, Shuddha, Shuddha, Soha. It's the same word. Shuddha means to make clean. To clean, Shuddha. Shuddha, that it is clean. Okay? So we say Shuddha, Swabhava, nature. Shuddha, pure, clean. Sarva Dharma, all phenomena. Sarva means all, Dharma, phenomenon. Dharma also means the spiritual path, the teachings, and so on. But in this context, it means phenomenon. All phenomena. Swabhava Shuddha Aham, or Swabhava Shuddhoham. In the Sanskrit language, when we make Shuddha Aham, when put together, becomes Shuddhoham. Okay? So, Swabhava nature, Shuddha pure, Aham I am. So if you make a translation, it will be Om, body, speech, and mind. I am, Om, all phenomena are of a pure nature. I am of a pure nature. Normally we make also all phenomena are of a pure nature, so and so am I. Okay? What is the meaning here? We say everything dissolves into emptiness. Okay. Now in English we'll be a little bit faster because I've already made the line of thought in Italian. So then it's more easy just to connect everything. But the fact is that in this moment, we need first to generate the state of mind in which we perceive and we experience the lack of inherent existence of phenomenon and of ourselves. Okay? One of the reasons for this is because what we are supposed to do in this moment is to eliminate what is called our ordinary appearance and the grasping of this ordinary appearance. Okay? Because one of the most powerful things that dictates everything in our life is the value that we attribute to things, the image that we attribute to things. No? So if we make an example, if we would go and ask, what is this? No? We would say, okay, that's a book. Okay, that's a book, a commentary of Yamantaka, that's a holy book, and so on. But if we really go to try to point the finger and say, where is the book? What is the book? Finally, we will not find anything more than a concept which comes through a name that is attributed at a unity of parts. Which are the parts that compose the book? Cover, pages, paper, ink, words, chapters, whatever, okay? These are all the parts that put together compose the book. But what makes the book to be a book is the fact that there is a value, a name called book, which is attributed to that unity of parts. If we attribute a different value, the object changes. For example, we take this object and we ask, what is this object? We call it a bell, right? So in the moment that we call this a bell, even though we may analyze, we may say, okay, it appears it is a bell because I attribute my value to a unity of parts and so on. How does it appear to us? As being a bell because I attribute this value, or it is a bell independently of what we think? Normally we say it is a bell because that's what it is, But what happens if I come now and I say, okay, from now on, this is not anymore a bell. This is a glass. To drink water and so on. Maybe better nothing hot because it will get boiling, but to bring cold water is fine. I say, okay, that's a glass. How would we look if I start drinking from here? Or the Lama went nuts. Or maybe someone may say, oh, look, he's drinking the nectar of wisdom because the bell symbolizes wisdom or whatever, whoever, each one may have our own projection. The fact that maybe for me it's just a glass. Can it fulfill the functions of the concept glass? Yes. So when we start using this as a glass, what happened? How do we see it? As the bell that is being used as a glass, or we see it just as a glass? Normally, the bell that is being used as a glass, right? So, what can we do in order to see this as a glass? Why this is a bell that is being used as a glass and is not just a glass? Because for us, it appears as a bell by its own characteristics. And we are not aware that actually it is just a bell because we attribute these values to it. And it's able to fulfill this function. That's all. Okay. What happened is that the only way for me to transform it from bell to glass is to give a new name to it, but to eliminate the previous one. As long as I call it bell, I will always see it as a bell by its own self. I need to somehow kill the bell in order to give birth to the glass. Okay? I need to eliminate the previous value that I attribute in order that I can generate a new one. But the fact here is that when we change the value that we attribute to something, we change its meaning, we change the experience. The value that we attribute to reality, to everything that we perceive, changes reality, determines what we experience. And it's very powerful. Just making one short example. The same situation, the same parts can be seen as an object of anger or as an object of compassion, or also as an object of gratitude. No? Just to make an example, if I am in the middle of the road, someone comes and pushes me very strong. I fall down in the floor, and as I fall down, I break my arm and so on. So I am in the hospital. What type of feeling I have towards the person that pushed me? I didn't see the person. Attraction, aversion, indifference? I would say aversion. We would have why this person did this to me, and maybe me thinking, I need to call my lawyer to find out who did this, and he must pay for what he did. Who knows? Maybe there we are thinking about how to go do something back towards that person, how to make him pay the price for what he did or whatever. Okay. Then suddenly, as we are there, comes the police and brings us a video of a security camera showing actually the scene when someone pushed me. And it was very clear there that behind me that I couldn't see, there was a robbery and someone had a gun and shoot in my direction. And this person saw what was happening and pushed me strong in order for me not to be shot. And he saved my life. When I see this, now how do I see the person? As an object of anger or as an object of gratitude? Hopefully as an object of gratitude. The arm is always painful. But the reality have completely changed because I attributed a different value to it. Okay? But we can make thousands of examples of this actually. That in the moment that we change the value that we attribute, reality changes. Because we are only able to perceive anything through the filter of ourselves. And the value that we attribute, that's what determines the way how we experience everything. The same thing happens to us. The identity that we have, which are the basis of imputation of the self? Body and mind. But normally our identity is based in the body of the mind and mind of right now, or based on things that have happened in the past? Mostly things that happened in the past. But here we are attached to what happened and this and that because at that time this happened, so I am like this. For example, if during a certain period of our life we felt very lonely because we had no one and so on, then maybe situations change and we have people that are very kind and nice to us, but still, how do we feel? I am a lonely person. Because we are attached to the identity that we used to have. We are attached to that image that was there since before. Okay? Similar to that, maybe we can understand better when we deal with another person. And this person, during a certain period of our lives, in the relation with the person have an attitude that we don't like, that somehow harms us, and so on. So we generate that attitude, that identity of the person, that image, I cannot trust you, you are not good to me, and so on. Then, the person changes his or her behavior and shows to us that he's trustworthy. Shows to us that he or she is someone that we can trust, that changes really the behavior. But we are still attached to the previous image. What is stronger? What the person is showing to us or the image that we have? The image. The image that we have, it's very, very powerful. It's what determines how we relate to reality. Similar to that, we have an image of our own selves. And one of the things that we need to do is change our own identity. Because in the moment that we change the way how we perceive our own selves, we change our own reality. Okay? And this is one of the most powerful tools of transformation that we have, actually. That's why in this moment of the practice, first there's the moment where we make the transformation of the offerings. And one point here is because it says or the offerings transforms into emptiness, and from within the state of emptiness, the offerings appears in such and such way. When we say something dissolves into emptiness, what do we mean by that? If we take, for instance, this glass, and we say, okay, the glass dissolves into emptiness. What do we mean by that? That suddenly the glass disappears and then appears again? Maybe, more or less, when we visualize. How we visualize? If you come and say, you visualize the glass dissolves into emptiness, and from within the state of emptiness appears a rabbit. Okay? How would we visualize it? No more glass, suddenly rabbit, okay? Or if I say, the glass dissolves into within a state of emptiness, and from within a state of emptiness appears a kapala with a letter hum that transforms into the offering, and so on. Somehow in the visualization, we imagine that yes, it dissolves and it appears as the object. But what do we mean? What's the meaning behind that? That if I take the object, the glass or the book, and I see that actually the object does not exist independently of the value that I am attributing to it. A book doesn't exist as a book independently of the name book. The glass doesn't exist as a glass independently of the name glass. So if I take away the value that I attribute to it, do I still have the object or not? Am I able to see the glass without having anymore the name glass attributed to it? Actually not. In the moment that I take away the value, suddenly I just have parts and I cannot put things together anymore. That's why, in other words, it's said that until we have not reached the state of Buddhahood. There's someone here. Okay, sorry. So what happens is that until the moment that actually we do not reach the state of Buddhahood, we are not able to perceive directly at the same time the lack of inherent existence and existence. Because existence appears to us in a form that of being as inherently existent. It appears to us like that, out of our ignorance. So, in the moment that I take away the projection, and I understand, like, if I take away me as an observer, I still may try to find the object, and I cannot find anything anymore. Like, if I take away the name book from this object, what happens? I don't know what it is anymore. In other words, when we take away the value that we attribute, we are not able anymore to see anything there. So when we talk about everything dissolves into emptiness, it's like if we take away that inherent existence appearance and we are not able to see reality within its complex interdependence. And then, once again, from within the state of emptiness, we attribute a new value to it. We give a new name to it, and that's how it appears. Something appears in the moments that we attribute a name. So it's like if we cut off the attribution of name, and then it disappears. Then we give a new attribution of name on that same basis of imputation, and then it appears again. Okay? But how can we take away a value that we attribute an identity? Of ourselves, for example. Okay? First, we need to kill ourselves. We need to die. We don't need to kill ourselves, okay? I just want to make it very clear, otherwise someone will come saying, oh, Lama is incentivizing people to suicide. No. Nothing to do with that. It's the fact that we need to simulate the process of our own death. Because we are very much attached to our own identity and the image that we have of ourselves. And what happens? Until we are not able to go beyond that, we cannot generate the pure identity. If I generate myself as Yamantaka, just as I was seeing the bell as a glass, I'm not really Yamantaka. So first I must take away that. And this is the moment where in the practice we do Om Sobhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Sobhava Shuddha. We meditate on the lack of inherent existence of phenomena and ourselves. Then, as we meditate on the lack of inherent existence, we simulate the process of death. And when everything dissolves into light, this is not the description of the visualization of the dissolution into emptiness. This is the description of the visualization of the process of death. Because during the process of death, we lose the ability to perceive the reality around us because our senses stop functioning. So that's why everything starts dissolving, and it dissolves into light, because this symbolizes us entering into the state of clear light, which is the very subtle body and mind. Okay? The end part of the process of death is called clear light. Now I'm not going to go into the details of the process of death, but there is the process of death in which earth dissolves into water and so on. We stop first losing the perception of our senses until there is nothing more than an infinite emptiness full of light. Okay? And this moment in the practice is called transforming death into the Dharmakaya, transforming the clear light of death into the Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is a very subtle body and mind of a Buddha. It's a very subtle mind in a pure state. That's what is called Dharmakaya. So basically what we do in this part of the practice is we simulate the process of death as everything dissolves into light. It's not darkness because it's a state of clear light. So there is no more perception of me, you, here, there, this, that. So this moment has 4 aspects. Nawa Tongsan, the appearance of total emptiness, which means there is nothing more, nothing less than an infinite emptiness full of light. The perception is that everything that we perceive, this infinite emptiness, lacks inherent existence. Because we have meditated in the emptiness before, so we continue with the same mode of apprehension. The object perceiver, ourselves, we are the state of great bliss. And this brings a very important part of Tantra, which is in Tantra, the state of bliss is a very important part. Even if we take the whole commentary on Guhya Samaja, completion stage is divided into 2 parts, actually 3. So, how to generate bliss, how to realize emptiness, how to unite bliss and emptiness. That's the whole commentary is based on that. So bliss is actually a mental, physical state, but it's a non-conceptual state of consciousness. For instance, when we have any pleasure, which can be the pleasure of drinking water, or any other pleasure, the very instant of the pleasure, it's a moment of non-conceptual experience. During that very moment of the pleasure, our mind stops this constant elaborations and thinkings and ideas and this and that. We can somehow finally relax. I think, for me, one of the most wonderful things of pleasure is that we can finally relax somehow, Our minds stop thinking and understanding and wanting this and that because of this and explaining and judging and controlling. We somehow relax. Okay? The strongest is the state of pleasure. The deepest it takes our mind to the deeper state of consciousness. The stronger becomes the deepest state of consciousness that we go. Okay? So, because of that, the idea is to generate a very strong state of pleasure, of bliss, and through that state of bliss, realize the true nature of reality. Because just by itself, to enter into a deeper state of consciousness doesn't bring any real benefit. What happened is that what was the last thought that we have while entering into a deeper state of consciousness, that's the direction that we give to that deeper state of consciousness. That's what is going to somehow imprint in our mind in a deeper level. So, for example, if I enter into a deeper state of consciousness within a state of attachment, what I am doing, I'm just familiarizing myself deeper with attachment. Okay? So, that's why, for example, when we talk about the state of bliss, just one description of this state. Once a friend of ours that comes here in the center, just to say it's one person like every one of us here, during one of the retreats, had this experience, which was as in the state of meditation, with recitation of the mantra, start to have this feeling of heat coming from near around the navel, the heat was going up, then suddenly as the heat goes up, it filled completely her body, like every part of the body, and she came to me saying, look, I had this experience, and she was a bit ashamed also somehow to tell it. And the fact was, okay, I felt like, she said, the heat came up, and then suddenly there was this sensation of bliss. And she said, the only way how I can describe it, it was a sort of an orgasm that never ended. And it was like I could feel it in every part of my body, into the tips of my fingers, and to the whole body, this is a state of bliss. And I simply was not moving at all. And as I was staying in that state, continuing the mantra, I could feel this sensation of bliss through the whole body. This is what we call an experience of great bliss, or at least an experience of bliss, okay, which can be induced through meditation. And this sensation of bliss, just by itself, it's nice, but it's not necessarily anything special. What happens is that this bliss, it brings us to a deeper state of consciousness, and because of that we need to see what do we perceive through bliss. If, for example, we just remain with attachment, we just make our attachment to become deeper and stronger. Instead, if we generate love, we make our love to become deeper and stronger. Okay? That's why also, generally speaking, when it is explained about the aspect of how to use one's own sexual energy, if what happens is that if one generates physically a state of bliss, and by that enter shortly into a deeper state of consciousness, if this is done just with the attachment to one's own pleasure, it's just going to make that attachment to get stronger and stronger and deeper and deeper. Instead, if it's done with love, for example, the feeling of love will get deeper. If it's done with wisdom, wisdom will get deeper. So one of the meanings here is that we generate this bliss in order to generate this deeper state of consciousness and this very, very powerful state of mind. That through that state of consciousness, we realize the true nature of reality. So bliss is the actual observer. So when we talk about the union of great bliss and emptiness, it's not that we should think about bliss and we should think about emptiness and we need to put both together. We should generate bliss, and within the state of bliss, which is a state of self, within that state of bliss, we perceive and we realize the true nature of reality of the lack of inherent existence. That's how we unite great bliss and emptiness. Okay? So within this moment of the meditation, the four aspects are, again, Nawa Tonsan, the appearance of total emptiness, Ngengo Ranshimeba, that appears as being of inherent existence, mode of apprehension of being of lacking inherent existence. The observer is great bliss, so wherever there is emptiness, there is bliss, wherever there is bliss, there is emptiness. And such union of great bliss and emptiness, I am this union. We generate our own identity in this state of non-duality of great bliss and emptiness, which is called the Dharmakaya. Okay? So from within that state, we stay meditating on that state as long as we can, and then from within that state, we will then after generate ourselves as the Buddha, which is symbolizing transforming the Bardo into the Sambhogakaya, which is transforming our subtle body in a pure state, and rebirth into the Nirmanakaya, which is transforming our gross body in a pure state. Okay? And that's when we generate ourselves completely as Yamantaka with 9 faces, 34 arms, 16 legs, all the implements and everything else, okay? And the description we have in the long sadhana, the whole description, which we don't need to go through it right now. But this is the moment where we simulate the process of rebirth. But the most important part here is to do well the process of death. If we do well the transformation of death into the Dharmakaya, then the transformation of the rebirth into Nirmanakaya will come well. Okay? Maybe more precise, by doing well the transformation of death into the Dharmakaya, we will do well the transformation of Bardo into Sambhogakaya, and by that we will do well the transformation of rebirth into Nirmanakaya. Okay? Once we have done that, then the next part of the practice is the part where we do the recitation of the mantras. The recitation of the mantras is where we simulate the holy activities of a Buddha. Because, okay, once we reach enlightenment, when we become a Buddha, then what we do? We go to the movies, go to have a walk, We go to meet the other friends, the other Buddhas. Oh, hello, how are you? Have a beer together, whatever. I don't know. No. What a Buddha do? Help others. That's the function of a Buddha. Act for the benefit of others. And how can anyone benefit anyone else? How can a Buddha benefit someone? By interacting. So, a Buddha constantly manifests himself in the aspect which the sentient beings can relate to, and which is the best way how to interact with sentient beings in order for them to be free from suffering. So, when we do the mantra, there's 2 visualizations, which is called the Tamsik Deba, or the Samaya recitation, or the commitment recitation, in which first, as we do the recitation of the mantra, emanations go to all the holy beings, make offerings to all the Buddhas, and then come back to our heart, the emanations of light and nectar. And the second one, which is the main one that we focus, we visualize that light and nectar and emanations of Buddhas, Yamantaka, emanate from our heart, go to all the sentient beings, and adapt to their needs, bringing food to those that are hungry, company to those that are lonely, until being able to guide them by teaching them the Dharma, until they are able to change their mind, develop renunciation, bodhicitta, correct view of reality, until they reach enlightenment. So we guide sentient beings to enlightenment. And once this process is done, the emanations come back and reabsorb into our heart. So as we do this, we are simulating the enlightened state of a Buddha, and we are also generating the 4 immeasurables. We are familiarizing ourselves and meditating on love, on compassion, on equanimity, and on rejoicing. We are meditating on that also as we do this visualization, okay? When we finish that part of the practice, then we can do the offering of the torma, which is not something that we must do, but we can do. Normally we do. And the offering of the torma is a moment in which we request the blessings. It's a special practice to request the blessings. That's why we visualize the frontal generation of Yamantaka, to whom we make the offerings and we request the blessings. And then after that we have the final conclusion, where the whole mandala in which we are, because when we do the self-generation, we visualize the whole mandala. So the whole mandala dissolves into light. Once again, everything dissolves within. We meditate on emptiness, and everything dissolves into light. And then once again, from within the state of emptiness, we appear ourselves in the state of Yamantaka with 1 face and 2 arms, no implements. Okay? This is called generation of the Buddha or the deity for the period between sessions. Okay? So then after, during our daily life, where we do our daily activities, we continue to visualize ourselves with the divine pride as being the Buddha. Okay? Which is Tara, or which is Yamantaka, or whatever is the main practice that we are doing at that period. Okay? And then after that, we do the final dedications. So this is more or less the structure of the sadhana. Very simple. We start first with requesting the blessings of the lineage, generating bodhicitta, renunciation and bodhicitta, self-generation, purification of the inner offerings, generation of great bliss and emptiness. Then within that state, we purify the external offerings. Then we generate ourselves, we do the 3 transformations, transforming death into Dharmakaya, birth into Sambhogakaya, rebirth into Nirmanakaya. Then we do the offerings to ourselves as the deity, to accumulate merits, outer and inner offerings. Then we simulate the process of being an enlightened Buddha with the recitation of the mantras, and we meditate in the 4 immeasurables as we do that. And then after that we do the offering of the torma, request the blessings, make the praises, request the blessings, and then finally we do the final absorption and then the dedications. This is the structure of the sadhana. Actually, to do well the short sadhana, we must have some familiarity with the long sadhana. So the best way is we start with the short sadhana, then we do the long one when we go into details, then we are able to do again the short sadhana without losing the details of the visualizations. Okay? So I would say, we are quite late, but the short sadhana is very short. So we will do now together. I would recite a little bit more fast because of a time reason. And we will do together once the short sadhana. Okay? So don't bother much about doing the recitation together so much, because I'm going to recite a bit fast. But just try to focus in each one of the passages. As we sit with our back straight, our shoulders relaxed, we are aware of our own breath. We request the blessings of the lineage. Kyabda chambe dorje shinje she gyawa kunga jezun tsonga pa yapse gyubra cheba tamche la sowa deso ngodru namni tso. Kyabda chambe dorje shinje she gyawa kunga jezun tsonga pa yapse gyubra cheba tamche la sowa deso ngodru namni tso. Kyabda chambe dorje shinje she gyawa kunga jetsun tsonga pa yapse gyubra cheba tamche la sowa deso ngodru namni tso. We take refuge and we generate the bodhicitta with a deep intention to reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Kuncho sumla kyapsu dra, simchen tamche dagi dra, chancho nila gobra gi, chancho simni yanda ke. Kuncho sumla kyapsu dra, simchen tamche dagi dra, chancho nila gobra gi, chancho simni yanda ke. Kuncho sumla kyapsu dra, simchen tamche dagi dra, chancho nila gobra gi, chancho simni yanda ke. In an instant, we appear as Yamantaka with one face and two arms, holding a curved knife and a skull cup. Ranike chigipe dorje jeje sheche cha nige trigodan tobe zimbe kuru shempar kyu. We eliminate our preconcepts, we eliminate our preconceptions as we reflect that all phenomena lack inherent existence, and through the process of purifying the elements, we generate an inner state of great bliss, through which we realize the true nature of reality. From within this union of great bliss and emptiness, we purify the inner and the outer offerings. Omorishti vikrita nana humpe, omosabava shuddha sarva dharma sabava shuddha han, damani dogyo, damengale yamle lon ramle me, alemiku kebo sumketendo vale, chunge te bakarpote, nando shanga, duseng, teta kitendo omo ahon, rangi toke on leve se tre long ye me, para te benangi zena shushinko, yike sum leve se tre bedorje sumkone te bada balonde shunge, honge kado trino ki kyanch, e tu tita prachonge mambo parchim pel vargyuro mahung ahung. Omorishti vikrita nana humpe, omosabava shuddha sarva dharma sabava shuddha han, dambani dogyo, dambengale ale chunge te baya shinge chivanam kina do hon, shuvale chunge chenam, chevanam kebar sumdengi ngowara gyur, omo arga mamam pa, dyom gen, dyom pushpyam dubyam alokyam nivite, omo shapta ahum. Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddhaham. The whole universe dissolves into light. My body dissolves into light. There is nothing more than an infinite emptiness full of light, empty of inherent existence, inseparable of great bliss. And I am the Dharmakaya, the non-dual union of great bliss and emptiness. From within the state of emptiness, of the clear light, the Dharmakaya, once again the universe appears. I find myself in a beautiful mandala, like a mansion of wisdom. The east is white, the south is yellow, the west is red, the north is green, and the center of the mandala is blue. Within the center of the mandala appears a lotus flower with a sun and a moon cushion. on top of which I appear myself as the 6-syllable Hum, blue in color. In an instant, from the syllable Hum, light emanates, going to the 10 directions, making offerings to all the Buddhas, eliminating the suffering of all sentient beings. As the light and nectar reabsorb back into the Hum, I appear in the aspect of the Sambhogakaya, in the aspect of Buddha Manjushri. I have one face and 2 arms, an orange body. In my right hand I hold a sword of wisdom that cuts away ignorance. And in my left hand, in the mudra of teaching Dharma, I hold a flower that blossoms at the height of my ear, on top of which is this text of the Sutra of Perfection of Wisdom. Light emanates from my heart as Buddha Manjushri in the form of the subtle body of the Sambhogakaya, going to all the Buddhas of all the directions, by that eliminating the suffering of all sentient beings, making offerings to all holy beings. The light and nectar reabsorb back into myself as Manjushri, and in an instant I appear as Yamantaka, as the resultant body of the Nirmanakaya with a gross level body in a pure state. I manifest myself as the wrathful form of Manjushri in order to help all sentient beings. I have 9 faces, 34 arms, 16 legs, in a very wrathful manner, helping all sentient beings to get out of their own anger, of their own ignorance and selfishness. My body is blue in color. Tombe ngale dorje sajirawa kolare mereda jebenando je kanro je shibenando uso natso pe da nime kingorgi den la gyo dorje dimba jambege korgyo ran jambe baba sewe dugane we setro devara shepa tamche pe dorje jige nambra chen ran la dimba yonse gyo bare rani drebo dorje dimba pe dorje jije Chenpo kudo tina she gu cha so she shepcho drupa ye kun she yung kempe kato ki shio pa te dugar ye she sempa champe shono gyor pa te dugar tinge ze sempa hun ye ki tsempa te chibur om drimbara a dugar hon duke hon lewe setro ran shingine ne ye she pa dan wange lanam chen ra ye she pa ra la ten wan le wan kora mi kyo pe u kembra kyor Omo Yamantaka argam padyam gende pushbe dube aloke nevidye shavta pratishta hun soha Omo Yamantaka humpe omo ahon socho chodo raboche pawo choki choyete Yoga duwe don sempa dorche chikche la cha tsel Rangi tukarni making gorgi den to hunye ke tarnga drengi korwar kyo. At our heart, there is sun cushion, on top of which is the syllable Hum, blue in color. Around the syllable Hum, in a clockwise direction, are the garlands of mantras. As you recite the mantras, light emanates from each mantra, going to all the sentient beings, eliminating every suffering from them, bringing them to a state of peace and joy, and then the emanations come back and reabsorb into our heart. Omarabat sanade, 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 Omarapatsana Omo Yamaranza Satome Yamedorona Yoda Yoda Yonirake Yaganza Niramaya Hom Pepe Soha Om Yamaranza Tome Yamedorna Yoda Nirake Kandanirama Yamaranza Tome Yamedorna Yoda Nirake Kandanirama Omo Yamaranza Tome Yamedorna Yoda Nirake Yamaranza Tome Yamedorna Yoda Nirake Yamaranza Tome Yamedorna Yoda Nirake Omo yamaranza satomeya yamedoro na yoda yada yonira yakeya yakeya sanira maya hum hum pepe svoha. Omo reshte vikritana na hum pe om 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 reshte vikritana na hum pe Omo reshte vikrita nana hum pe Omo yamantaka hum pe om 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 yamantaka hum pe Omo yamantaka hum pe om yamantaka hum pe om yamantaka hum pe Omo yamantaka hum pe Omo yamantaka samaya manupalaya yamantaka tenopa rishariro me bhava sadokaya me Sabokaya me bhava anurakta me bhava sarvasiddhi me prayasha sarva karma satsame tsidan shriyan kuru ha ha ho bhagava yamantaka mame maza yamantaka bhava ma samaya sattva aham pe Omo yamantaka argam padyam gende pushbe dube aloke nevide shabda pratishta hum soha Omo yamantaka hum pe omo ahum Sucho chodo drabo che pavo choki che che do duen den sempa dorje chikche la cha tse. Diciamo brevemente l'offerta della Torma, nella quale richiediamo le benedizioni a Yamantaka, così anche la trasmissione è completa. We do briefly the offering of the Torma. In this way the transmission of the short sadhana is complete. And then also we request the blessings to Yamantaka. Om Reshti Avikrita Nanam Pe Om Sabhavashu Sarvadharma Sabhavashu Atamanyinda Gyo Tamengala Yamle Lon Role Me Alemi Gogi Basung Den Dole Jomete Bakarabata Inad Shanga Denga Takan Om Om Rang Tum Le Zatro Lung Yeme Bart Benang Sanashingo Yege Sumle Zarabe Sung Neti Batabalon de Shang Katrina Ganja E Dizita Pracham Ki Mamo Parachim Pel Vargiro Mahung Mahung Duen due che ci pe dorje ci pavo ci pe tanate pe kin ko yonso zo para gyo range do ge hun le ve tro pe dorje ci pavo ci pe ye she pe kin ko che gyon dan che ba chen ran sa hon ba ho ye she ba dam se ba da ni so me ba gyo ran ge shon le ke be dorje ci pa ka e ge pe go chen na so tu ge torme chu ran de sol war kyor Om reshte vikrita nana hon pe vajra bhairava ya atipadi imam balinta kaga kai kai hon pe so Om reshte vikrita nana hom pe vajra bharavaya atipadi imam balinta kaga kai kai hom pe so Om reshte vikrita nana hom pe vajra bharavaya atipadi imam balinta kaga kai kai hom pe svoha Om yamantaka argam padyam gende pushpe dube aloke nevidye shavta pratisa soha Omo yamantaka hum pe omo ahum. Nime tumo mayin kyabe ku kunla nyumse kyawa kunge ya chukin gyo kyawa kunge yo yeshe sempa kyawa kunge chase chambe pangyo tsoba kyo. Kyoke kola chanda mima ya sison deba malo debe chir tuje tabki droge to tuje tabki droge kurden pa chikje shinje shela cha tse lo omo yamaranza sato meya yame doro na yoda ya yada yoni raya ke ya yake yanza nira maya hum hum pe pe so om buzarana ya batala zara yamana ke zara ya tapon kanda gini dika ya hum pe zamana pe otara dika ya om miri ya wiki kriko ta na numba ya be sarva bote bye om buzarana ya batala zara yamana ke zara ya tapon kane gini dikashka kam dakshana dika ya hum pe zamana pe Otratikaya Om Iriya Shriya Wiki Krikotayana Umbaya Sarva Bhutebye Om Bocharana Yapatarasara Yamana Kesraya Tapuani Kanam Kandakshana Dikaya Humpetse Mana Peotratikaya Om Iriya Wikshi Om Iriya Shriya Wiki Krikotayana Umbaya Sarva Bhutebye Om Odasha Dikaloka Palasa Parivare Argam Padyam Gende Pube Dube Aloke Nevidi Shabda Pratisa Hum Soham Dasha Dikaloka Palasa Parivare Om ahum. Chomden Chuja Chana to the Basmaji Palagation Mokanaba Jumborolandi, Canal Chin and Kimedam Jumalapadani, the Chokan Korna Chabanamki, Lagi gave Chavanam Tarchimbadan, Te Parchetam, Shive Chinlet, Tudro Korcherane Suche, Tudro Sheye Kamla Tim, Sheye Kara Latin, Rayesh Simbola Tending, a simple Hon Latin, Teave se Tomba Nido Timbar Cure. The protectors and the deities to whom we offered the torma go back to their own natural abodes. The mandala dissolves into our body as Yamantaka. The body dissolves into the syllable hung at the heart, and the syllable hung gradually dissolves into the clear light of emptiness. From within the state of emptiness of the clear light, in an instant we appear as Yamantaka, with one face, two arms. At our crown there is a white Om, at the throat a red A, at the heart a blue Hum. We do the final dedications together. Namdasam pe tsu dirbe pale Chongwe gewe ta ye zhuwa kun Ke shin ke wara cham ya shi zhu yi Zhewa me par che su zing gyur chi Nam ka ji si ku nge da ni chen Ka chur dun den ko pang gyur nem Ta da dru di ko pan te ni la Ke chi ni la de la gu par shu Sa gyu la ma nam ge tra shi shu Yidam la tso nam ge tra shi shu Ma dan kan dro nam ge tra shi shu Cho gyon sung ma nam ge tra shi shu. So with this we conclude also the transmission of the short sadhana of Yamantaka, the extremely brief short sadhana. And then also I just ask, especially for those that have received the empowerment and especially also for those that have done the retreat, please do the sadhana from time to time. Please recite the mantras, possibly Om Yamantaka Hompe, all the mantras, otherwise at least Om Yamantaka Hompe. Try to recite the mantras and bring it to your daily life, because as the name itself says, the practice works when it's practiced. So it's something that we need to do, okay? So thank you very much with this, and we just do the final dedication, dedicate for the long life of our gurus, and then and also dedicating that we may be able truly to fulfill this practice in the most excellent way for the benefit of others. Jetsun lame kutse rapten chin namkar chin le chochur gepadang losan tempe drume sasum gi drove munsel tatu ne gyurchi nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin Ninsen takto delek pe koncho sumke jing koncho sumke ngodro so koncho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.